Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to August. August's theme is pragmatism. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. August 1st. Don't go expecting perfection. It begins with a quote by Marcus Aurelius. That cucumber is bitter, so toss it out. There are thorns on the path, then keep away. Enough said. Why ponder the existence of nuisance? Such thinking would make you a laughingstock to the true student of nature, just as a carpenter or cobbler would laugh if you pointed out the sawdust and chips on the floors of their shops. Yet while those shopkeepers have dustbins for disposal, nature has no need of them. Okay. That cucumber is bitter, so toss it out. There are thorns on the path, then keep away. Enough said. Why ponder the existence of nuisance? Such thinking would make you a laughingstock to the true student of nature, just as a carpenter or cobbler would laugh if you pointed out the sawdust and chips on the floors of their shops. Okay. I had to read that twice.
Yeah, like perfection, like don't, because like somebody would be like, go to somebody's shop and they're like, well, there's so much dust over here, it's so much dirt. You're like, well, yeah, but you're not looking at the right thing here. the right thing in the wood shop is to look at the thing that came out of the wood shop. The dust is just that has to happen, right? So it's almost like,
For sure.
Even though wouldn't that be beautiful if it was just all clean or something? Yeah. But
that cucumber is bitter, so toss it out. There are thorns on the path, then keep away.
Yeah, so
Enough
it's like
said.
yeah, so it's right. You get that? Like
he's saying
like don't throw out the cucumber. You're not looking for the perfect cucumber. Just clean up the sides. Take whatever is good from the cucumber and eat it. Right.
Right. Is he saying that, or is he saying, oh, the cucumber is bitter, so just throw it away? Like, and don't give it another thought. Like, don't complain about the fact that the cucumber is bitter, or don't be disappointed about the fact.
I mean, sure, or that if nothing is if there's nothing salvageable from it, then yeah, toss it and don't think about it again. Yeah. There's no.
There are thorns on the path, then keep away. So he's saying like choose a different path if this one's thorny, or.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or one might say like, well, okay, maybe. I mean, don't go into thorns, right? Like obviously, right?
Like move around the thorns.
Move around the
Go
thorns
on
if
the
you
path.
can, or if you have no other choice, they're just thorns, right? They're not knives and bullets. They're gonna kill you. Like no, they're gonna scratch you, and you will be fine on the other end. It's not the best option, perhaps, but if it's the only option, then yeah, then you might, you know what I mean? So it's like, I see it in like, well, wouldn't it be better if there were no thorns on this path?
Right, I wonder if he's
Right.
also talking about that too.
Maybe
like,
he's talking about both in some way,
Yeah.
But we're talking about the same thing essentially, like perfectionism, right? Like how we get to perfectionism could be different. Like we can be looking at it like from these different angles.
like complaining that there are
Yeah.
problems is even maybe a form of perfectionism.
Sure,
Because
yeah.
why else would I complain about a problem if I didn't think it shouldn't
Yeah.
be here?
Or complain, or then expectation of some sort of a result, right? And it's like if the result's not coming, then that was expected. Then it's not perfect. This is not working, right? This none of this is working because I didn't get the result I wanted it. Like no, that has nothing to do with this working or not working. It is working. You just didn't get the result, right? Like it's like it has to be very simplified to this very simple steps in order for us to actually kind of see of what the complaint is about, right? But yeah, ultimately, like nothing is actually perfect the way we imagine that it could or should be. We're just striving for better,
This has me interested in the different symptoms of perfectionism. That maybe complaining about something that I perceive to be a problem is it in itself a form of perfectionism, because it means that I want things to be in a more perfect state than they are. And then there's also I feel like what I've been going through a lot recently in terms of perfectionism is this embarrassment. This embarrassment of making a mistake in front of somebody else or making a misstep in front of somebody else. And then I feel embarrassed about it. And then I go to investigate the embarrassment and I'm like, oh, well, if life is just this never-ending series of non-perfect things, then me being embarrassed about not being perfect doesn't make sense, because it will never get to the place where I will be this perfect thing. And so it doesn't feel like perfectionism per se. Intellectually, if you were well, Brenty, maybe you're just being a perfectionist about this, I would maybe argue with that and say, no, I'm feeling embarrassed. But why am I feeling embarrassed? Because somehow there is still this feeling that
perfectionism has many faces, right? And it's tied to many different behaviors that we have, and it shows up in all kinds of places, but we never associate it with perfectionism. We associate it with, well, I was just X, Y, and Z. I was just trying to but you were trying to be perfect. You were setting up an expectation that something should happen a certain way, aka perfect way, the way that would work for you if you could have control over it, and it never actually happens that way. And so they're life sucks. Oh, life is so terrible because it never goes the way I'm imagining. Did we ever take a second to acknowledge that maybe what we're imagining is complete garbage and it's not how it actually works? Right? Imagination is more about what could potentially someday maybe happen, but not this needs to happen, otherwise everything blows up in my life type of a thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, mine's not that extreme.
About you,
yeah,
right?
it's the embarrassment. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're embarrassed, that's kind of blowing up out of your life a little bit, right? That's uncomfortable.
I mean, even if I look at a meeting, let's say, that I feel like I could have done a better job in, to what point where does perfectionism play in the whole continuous improvement thing? Because I want to be clear about where I could have done better, but I also don't want to beat myself up for.
But the beating yourself up is the perfectionism.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't have perfectionism, you would say, oh yeah, well, next time we need to start. Maybe I need to join this meeting 2 minutes before because there were some questions that were not related to, and now the meeting got derailed because of it. Okay, note to self, next time continuous improvement type of a thing, right? I want to do this better, but I'm not going to beat myself that this whole thing got derailed either, right? So it's both. I'm not gonna shit on myself because I did something wrong. But at the same time, I want to acknowledge that something was derailed and I need to adjust the next time so it doesn't derail, because that would be the better outcome, right? Or something, right? Wouldn't that be better? And everyone says, yes, that would be better. Okay, then let's strive for that, right? Let's try to do better, but not perfect. No. The second mistakes happen, let's acknowledge those things that they didn't go precisely the way maybe we imagined them, but they're not problems. They are actually how it is, how it's actually being brought up here, right? Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and that's probably the biggest takeaway for me is it's that perfectionism is hidden in many different places, and I'm just kind of questioning where is do I have something that I'm perfectionist about? Of course I do, 100%, right? I want people to do certain jobs certain way, right? Like I have some standards. What are those standards? Well, they're pretty high when it comes to my expectation of how the job should be done, right? So it's like, yeah, I have some expectations. Is it perfectionism? No, but it's more than, good job, right? Like, no, this is crooked, dude. This needs to get like fixed so it's not crooked. Let's say, right? Something.
Yeah, and I think there is that difference between high standards and perfectionism.
Right. I'm more in the higher standards camp and perfectionism, but there could be something I might be doing that's based on some sort of a perfectionism.
I mean,
I want something.
Right.
I want something a certain way, and it's not happening, and I'm like,
Right, exactly. Like, I'm wondering if like shame, like anytime I feel ashamed about something, like that must be some form, some flavor of this perfectionism coming in.
Yeah. Shame or even like mistake or fault, right? Like that's before shame, let's say, like, oh, I made a mistake, but the mistake can start, the feeling of mistake can start then shifting into more of a shame, right? But so even recognizing it even then, like, hey, this mistake is really it's not a mistake.
It does need to be improved upon.
It needs to be improved upon.
But it shouldn't make me feel bad about myself.
But it's nothing that I've done that I'm somehow inadequate. I'm not inadequate because this mistake happened.
Right.
Mistakes don't happen to inadequate people. They happen to all people. Right? Like even smart people, even perfectionists make terrible mistakes by being perfectionists. They're not realizing that the mistake that they're making is by being perfectionists. But they're actually thinking, no, I'm helping myself. I'm having everything is perfectly organized, but that's essentially your own cage, right? You know, like you build a cage around yourself, and they're like, "I'm free."
You ready for Ryan?
Yep.
Okay. He says, "We want things to go perfectly, so we tell ourselves that we'll get started once the conditions are right, or once we have our bearings, when really it'd be better to focus on making do with how things actually are." Marcus reminded himself, don't await the perfection of Plato's Republic. He wasn't expecting the world to be exactly the way he wanted it to be, but Marcus knew instinctively, as the Catholic philosopher Joseph Piper would later write, that he alone can do good who knows what things are like and what their situation is. Today, we won't let our honest understanding of the world stop us from trying to make the best of it. Nor will we let petty annoyances and minor obstacles get in the way of the important job we have to do.
Yeah, perfect. Anything else for today?
We can leave it with Ryan.
Sweet.
All right.
See
Thank
you
you for
tomorrow.
joining. See you tomorrow.